The regular meeting of the HABD Board of Commissioners now called to order. We'll start with a moment of silence. All right, roll call. Vice Chairman Todd.
Present.
Commissioner Hood.
Present.
Commissioner Pentazis.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Lewis?
Mr. Lewis here.
All right, very good.
Mr. Lewis here.
Okay, we got you. Thank you. All right, adoption of the agenda.
Well, Chairman, I make a move that we adopt the agenda as printed, or whatever change that need to be made in order to accommodate this meeting.
Before we second that, we do have one change to the agenda. We have a speaker that we're going to allow to speak before the interim president CEO's report. So that's the only change in the agenda. We have a speaker that we're going to allow to speak. That's part of Mrs. Foster's report, but we have a speaker that's going to speak. So we will allow them to speak before the interim president's CEO report. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that item's approved. Okay, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't see any corrections that need to be made in the minutes that I have went over. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as they are. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. All right, old business. Is there any old business that we need to discuss? Okay, any new business?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have one piece of information that I'd like to bring up. I think we've already talked about it on the phone, but I'm quite sure my other commissioners don't know about it. There was a problem with people understanding about the rent, and there was places where they're going to be covering in your report about the complaints about the rents going up in the areas, and some was being threatened to be evicted because they didn't pay their rent. That in your report, we know we discussed that. I just want to see, have anyone had an opportunity to check on that? Because I had 2 sites to call me about that, at least talk to me about that the resident was complaining about when they go pay they would get notice that they're going to be evicted because they had not paid their rent, and some of them said their rent had gone up and they didn't understand it. I have no valid proof. I'm just saying what the calls I got about that. And both of them was from the presidents of the neighborhood. Okay.
So I did have a conversation with the CPAB in regards to those concerns. So currently, there's no rent that's going up, and we are not doing any evictions at this time.
Mm.
So one of the concerns was that when residents lose their job, their employers are not open, so they're not able to receive a letter to report to the management office to say that they're no longer working. So what we did was allow them to bring in their the letter from unemployment stating that they're under unemployment, and then we allow them to use that as a self-certification since they're not able to get in contact with their employer. So that was one of the concerns. And then so their rent was adjusted based off their documents. And in my report, there is a moratorium that new evictions, we cannot evict anyone that's under non-payment until the new eviction will not be evicted until July 25th. So we're informing the residents that if you can, pay your rent, but the evictions will not start until July 25th. And of course, we have a plan in place to work out agreement for those residents that lost their job and not able to pay at the time.
All right. Could some kind of communication go out to the neighborhood presidents so they can be able to explain to the resident these proceedings?
Yes, housing operations drafted a letter to get out to them.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, just to kind of follow up on a conversation I think we've had once or twice. Obviously, we're back in person now today, and while I do enjoy seeing at least half of everybody's face here. I do think there is still concern that, the cases and hospitalizations are rising due to the coronavirus pandemic. And I think we have the technology to do these meetings virtually. And we've entertained some suggestions from Commissioner Hood on maybe ways we can even better show our presentations, where we can have our documents and things, as part of a Zoom presentation or another platform where, our residents and the public can see kind of the documents we're looking at, and maybe even highlight some of the speakers that are talking in a way that might give them more access to what we're doing. So kind of in light of those two concerns, I would, I guess reiterate that I think we're still a little bit too early in getting back in person. And it would be my suggestion that we move back to a virtual meeting, but a more robust virtual meeting if possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Fantasis, for those thoughts. Any other thoughts along those lines? Any other commissioners?
Ms. Foster, you might already have this in your report, but I think we probably do need to just make sure we're continuing to have like a COVID update as part of your report. You may already have that plan, but if not, we probably just want to add that, I sit on the task force for COVID, and I know one of the concerns that we have right now is the rise in hospitalization that we're seeing right now is probably related to Memorial Day. And so now that we're coming up on Father's Day this weekend, and then we're going to have 4th of July, there is expectation that we're going to see the rates continue to go up. So we just want to make sure that we're remaining vigilant. I was just telling Commissioner Pantazis, I'm kind of tired of being in the house, and I know my family is too, and I think a lot of times we're letting our guard down, but the virus is still with us. So just making sure that we're keeping everybody updated on our plans for keeping our residents safe as well as our employees safe, and just make sure that we're communicating that.
All right, yeah, thank you, Dr. Hood and Attorney Pendergast, for your thoughts. And I would like to further that conversation and see how we can, think through that process. I think there are advantages and disadvantages to having virtual meetings, and same with having in-person meetings here. I know there are some other entities that have gone back to having in-person meetings. I'm not saying that we have to follow suit, but that's this board's decision, what you want to do as a board as far as having the meeting. So I look forward to having a healthy discussion as to how we proceed with our meetings. And so let's try to do that as soon as we can. Schedule something so we can further that discussion, so we can come to a consensus. Okay. Thank you. One order of new business is actually just an announcement. President Eldridge Knighton, the president at Morton Simpson, soon to be Morrell Todd, is having an event on Saturday to honor Mother's Day. They could not have the event for Mother's Day because of COVID-19, and then now Father's Day coming up, they're going to have an event at the Morton Simpson community to celebrate all the mothers and fathers in the community. So they'll be having a small program, and they'll have food and some other giveaways and things for the family. So I just invite my colleagues, if you can make it out. Mr. Knight wanted to extend the invitation for not only the Board of Commissioners, but anyone, staff, or anyone else, residents that wanted to come out to celebrate with them for that event. Okay.
Time is 10:45, is that correct?
Yeah, they'll start at 10:45, and they're going to have a brief ceremony. They'll do a balloon release in honor of the past CPAB, not CPAB, but the past Morton Simpson president that passed away a few years ago. So they'll honor her, and maybe do something to honor our colleague as well. I think there may be something in the works as well to honor Vice Chairman Todd for this being the new Morrell Todd facility. So I think they'll be doing something to acknowledge him as well. So I hope it wasn't a surprise, right? Because if it was, we just gave it away.
You sure have.
Yes, sir. So with that being said, I just wanted to make that announcement on behalf of Mr. Knighton. Is there any other new business? Any other new business? All right, here none, then we'll move down to our, well, before we get to our interim president report, we have some speakers. I think we have some pastors here that are going to speak, and we're going to allow you the floor. Like they say in the ministry, we let them come in their own way. So y'all come on. I don't have your name.
Chris Stewart, Dr. Stewart.
Dr. Stewart.
He'll introduce the rest of them.
Okay. All right. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, other commissioners. My name is Chris Stewart, and I am the pastor of Divine Faith Baptist Church in the Marks Village community, adjacent to the Marks Village community. And myself and my colleagues just simply represent a modicum, small fellowship of clergy across the city and county who heard the clarion call from Ms. Foster to, who heard the clarion call from Ms. Foster to come and partner with HABD to fill in the gap that was left by the sudden departure of Church of the Highlands. These congregations have been working in the communities that they are connected to for a number of years. Some over 100 years they've been working in these various communities. After meeting with Ms. Foster on last week and Mr. Matthews on last week, and again we'll meet later on today, we have started putting in action a plan that would make sure that nothing goes lacking. We have reviewed, taken time to review what Church of the Highlands were doing in a practical way in all of the various communities, and have gone on to contact congregations close to, connected with, et cetera, so forth, so on, in these communities. And a larger body have even come on board. I talked with Dr. E.O. Jackson as recently as last night, and so the Birmingham Metropolitan Ministers Conference, its 100+ year time in the city, they are on board. Other conferences and congregations are on board. And so I just came, and we just came to echo that you have nothing to worry about. The communities will continue to be served spiritually. They will continue to be served with these wraparound services. We will continue as much as possible with Ms. Foster, whomsoever will become the permanent CEO, to avail ourselves so that we can continue to create healthy communities, because our belief is healthy communities equal healthy congregations. And so I'm just going to step aside now if there's anything real quick.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Chris Erskine. I'm a native of Birmingham. I was born and raised in Pratt City. I've been a member of the Bethel Baptist Church, Pratt City, for 45 years now, and now leading a new church plant called the Movement Fellowship, which is in Pratt City as well, the Sandusky area. I came alongside this project along with my friend Pastor Stewart and Pastor Hatchison and others, because the services that were offered by Church of the Highlands, we applaud them. And this is not a tug of war or battle with them. It's to make sure that your 40,000 plus residents services are continued. And so we're creating a virtual village as suggested last week, so that they can go online and get services from 6 in the morning to midnight, and not just services that will spotlight their spiritual needs, but also life lessons, character building, leadership, a whole spectrum of classes and Zooms and Facebook Lives that we're already doing that we can implement into this village, so that we can not only enhance what was there, but to also provide new opportunities and avenues for them to be able to access. Thank you for the opportunity.
And
I'm P.B. Hatcherson, pastor of 23rd Street Baptist Church South, a 120-year-old congregation on the south side of Birmingham. And I'm just enthused to continue doing what we've been doing and amplifying it for the cause of kingdom building, working with these pastors and the housing authority. And I amen everything else that has been said.
Amen.
Just in one of the reasons that I was adamant about them speaking is you see represented just again in a small way how the clergy community has embraced and is willing at any cost to make sure that those persons who live in public housing have a community. And again, Ms. Foster, as we've talked numerous occasions, and your predecessor, we're here for you. And I echo that. Dr. Todd has said so. We've talked on numerous occasions. We are here with the whole concept of being a part of HABD, and we want to continue to foster this relationship. We don't want it ever said that persons who had need went without. And so we avail ourselves to you. You see us. This is just a small representation. I see some people that I've worked with in other areas of HABD across the last 2 years. So we are as close as a phone call and as near as we need be in any situation. Thank you so very much for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you today. All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a word?
Yes, sir.
With Dr. Stewart, this past summer, was it this past summer where you fed the community for the whole summer? Was there with breakfast and lunch, and there was other things that was involved in just the feeding. So he is correct in that. When we formed the pastors coalition with the housing authority some 2 years ago, this has been one of the experiences that we have seen unfold itself. And we're going to start seeing more because since this particular changeover, I've had a call from Dr. Sellers too, who also with the state convention, who is willing to do some coordination. But I think Dr. Stewart and Dr. Hatcherson and Dr. Erskine, I think they got enough within their ranks to do whatever necessary for the housing. Now, I guess that's a question would be from this board in terms of giving us some strategic plans and some concrete information on what are you going to present, what are you going to provide. We would like to see something like that. Come on, okay, come on back.
I'm a Baptist preacher, so you don't say more than what you can prove. I echo what I said earlier. We took a look at what was presented as being done. It wouldn't take me 10 minutes to round up the same figures and greater. We did some comparisons. One of the things that was on that list is that they were feeding 15 families per week since the pandemic. I'll just use that. Well, I know for a fact that Pastor Erskine is doing 200 boxes a day.
Lunches and breakfast.
So, okay. It's going to be as an at-need situation avails itself. Another thing that was on that list was that they were providing Thanksgiving meals for 10 families in every housing area. Well, I know for a fact that Pastor Hatcherson does that and then some. Our church does 25 turkey baskets and boxes and have done so for the last 11 years of my pastorate. Without being too overly critical, I'll just cut straight to the chase. we've done this work without the cameras.
I hear you.
I hope that gets to the heart of the matter. We've done the work without the cameras. I have only reached out to pastors who have that mind. I think it is disgraceful, forgive my language, I think it is disgraceful to play up the needs of hurting people for the benefit of popularity and camera play. I think that is distasteful and disdainful, and it ends up bastardizing and prostituting the pain of people who are hurting. And I think that's disgraceful. And so, Pastor Todd, we are trying to put some flesh on the bone, but it is basically trying to tailor make. We are really building the plane and flying it at the same time, trying to figure out what the real core needs are. I just so happened to heard one of the commissioners say that just meeting in person for this setting may not be the best of alternatives. So now we're thinking also, how do we do this work virtually? How do we continue to meet needs? One thing that I can spotlight today is that in Mark's Village and in the High Chaparral area, I'm drawing a blank to the proper name for that area, but we'll be able to provide families in the next couple of days with a gift certificate to go to City Meats and get $40 worth of meat. That might not sound like much, but some of the boxes that are coming in are lacking meat. And so they got plenty of produce, but they don't have meat. And so now you've got young ladies who lack the skill of cutting up a chicken. So now we've got to find somebody to go do a Zoom on how to cut up a chicken and feed four people with a chicken. And it's giggling because all of us have seen it done. But yet and still, we still have to remember that we're training and teaching people how to adult. Not everybody that's 21 knows how to do adulting. And so we're trying to build the plane and fly it at the same time.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Doctor. All right, are there any other questions or comments for the pastors?
My only comment is that I really appreciate that. I think that's exciting. I appreciate your comments about, you guys just been doing the work and not seeking any praise for it. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate the partnership and everybody else that y'all work with. So thank you.
I'd echo those sentiments. I think it's important that we know that our residents are these services are continuing to be there and that they're going to grow. And so I look forward to being in contact with everybody that's doing this work so that we can kind of, if there's something we can do to help, if you need resources from us or if there's input you need from us or anybody else in this group, please don't hesitate to reach out because I'd love to stay in touch about what's going on here.
Yeah, go ahead, Doctor.
Permit me just to put this out here. Everyone that you see here and those who are not here, we would love to have this conversation, and we'll make time to come give as updates as necessary, either in person or via email, however it will make it easier for this board. I know for a fact that Pastor Hatchison and I have been talking about this partnership for years, and the door opened, and now we're ready to walk into this partnership. I'll say that if any one of you who want to contact me directly, Ms. Foster has my number, Vice Chairman Todd has my number. You are more than welcome to call me or text or Don't email unless you text first and tell me to check my email. And that goes without reservation. I know that it goes for the other members of this team. However you need the access to us, we would definitely love to have that access to you as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stewart and Pastor Erskine and Pastor Hatcherson. Thank you so much for coming. And to you, Vice Chairman, thank you for connecting the dots, if you will. I know this is, this is something, a partnership that you kind of helped foster for the last few years. And we just thank you for your leadership and putting together a coalition such as these to help our residents. And I'm going to move on, but I do want to say that I do echo the sentiments of what's been said. I've been around for a minute, and I've been in these communities. I spend time in these communities, a lot of time, and I see churches doing great work in these communities, and I think I shared that with some of you on the last call we had, that for a lot of these pastors and churches, they don't want any credit. They just want to do the Lord's work, and they're not necessarily concerned about who gets the credit. And so, but I know, because I'm in these communities, I know for several years that there have been partnerships with churches and pastors and the faith-based community, and the work has been going on for a number of years, and it's no doubt in my mind that with relationships like these, they will continue to go on for many years. Long after we're gone, these relationships will still stand the test of time. So thank you again. All right, so we're down to Interim President, CEO's report. Mrs. Foster.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
And all those that are present today. Can everyone hear me clearly with my coverings on?
Take them off so you can see. Pull the mic a little closer to you.
There you go.
To present my report, I'm going to speak about the COVID-19 update. HABD has worked with several partners to provide mobile testing in several of the housing communities. As of today, testing performed at most of the communities in exception to Southtown Court, Harris Homes, and Roseville City, Benjamin Green. We are working with the city of Birmingham and their partners to reach those communities and to schedule testing once a month at each community. So I do want to put an update to this, is that we've been in communication all this week, and also in communication with Dr. David Heath with UAB, and we have we've been able to connect with several organizations that have confirmed that they will be doing testing at all of our sites once a month, and cover those sites that have not been tested at this point. So we're in the process of now making those schedules to present to the board. The campus hosts the program Virtual Village, which allows partners to conduct effective delivery of online, remote, and virtual programs for the youth, adults, and seniors. This program will be introduced to the community center staff, CJB, and other partners to be shared across the other communities. Also during the summer months, the community center staff will provide hands-on activities to engage the youth in arts and crafts. The staff is engaged with the residents and community partners to identify education needs and services as we transition to virtual programming. We continue to have our several partners to continue with feeding programs, virtual tutoring programs, and health and safety equipment for the residents and staff. So these partners continue to grow throughout our HABD community. As many of HABD contractors and vendors begin to return to regular services, HABD has begun to implement a full-time return to work plan. A committee has been working diligently with departmental leadership to identify the safety needs of the staff in each department and division of the agency. This plan is implemented to begin in 2 phases. The first phase is employees returning to work full-time, and the second phase is open to the public. The plan is currently in draft form as we work through procurement of items that are needed, installation of safety equipment, and timing for the phases. This draft is a work in progress, so a copy of the draft plan is provided to the commissioners for their review and their input. As this plan is implemented, we ensure that we continue to follow the guidelines from CDC, local, state, and federal health officials. It's the agency's goal to have the safety provisions in place by the end of July. Going to our operational updates. HABD was awarded an additional $212,770 of CARES Act funding for our mainstream housing choice voucher program. This program, we applied for and initially was awarded this grant in year 2018. So these additional funds will provide affordable housing for our non-elderly people living with disabilities. A presentation was made to the board regarding resident participation funds last month. As a follow-up to the presentation, the HABD team met with Commissioner Fantastis to discuss recommendations to improve the process. HABD discussed implementing the following to ensure the residents receive adequate assistance in receiving their funds. We discussed shared blanket forms on the website and or text message blast. Coordinate with CJB to update the CJB and site resident council handbook. Schedule monthly meetings, which is currently being scheduled now for the second Tuesday of the month. Evaluate a position to provide technical assistance to the residents, such as the resident participation funds process. In the interim, a staff rehousing and health and wellness coordinator vacant position in a temporary capacity to assist in that effort. And we also will streamline the approval process with an electronic component. We're currently having working sessions to currently schedule to implement the recommendations of staff and CPAB. A follow-up to discussion regarding tracking and monitoring services provided by contractors and vendors. Also included in my report is a copy of the contract administration procedures outlining the responsibility of the contract administrator. Under the initial contracting requirements, section E outlined in the procedures, it states that the responsibility of the contract administrator to maintain in the file sufficient documents to track and monitor the progress of the performance of the vendor or contract. The compliance officer or designee will submit an evaluation survey to the contract administrator and vendor and contractor at the expiration of the contract for documentation and feedback to be placed in the procurement file and the contract administrator's file. The Mayor Nathan Academy hosted a graduation for 18 of HABD residents with a high school diploma. The Academy is a learning center that provides a safe haven and second chance to critically at-risk youth and adults. This program started in September 2018 at the Campus of Hope as one of our first partners. I want to say congratulations to the Executive Director of Mayor Nathan Academy, Ms. Donna Dukes, the Dean, Erica Tollett and her team, and Armand Matthews and his team. Job well done. Congratulations to those graduates. HABD encourages residents to pay their rent when they can, because the CARES Act takes a 120-day moratorium on new evictions for non-payment only. So this moratorium expired July 25th, 2020. So we try to mention Commissioner Todd that that's why we currently don't put out eviction at this point, because we have to July 25th for the moratorium to be lifted for non-payment evictions.
Okay.
HABD has received a huge outreach from churches across the communities request to fill the gap of services to the residents. And the Campus of Hope staff, the resident president in March Village, and I met with many pastors offering their ministries. I don't want to name them all because the outreach continues. So as many of us spoke today, I just wanted to thank them for their support and filling the gaps for the program. And of course, I'm going to list those services and the outcomes that will be shared with the board as we move forward. This concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Foster. Are there any other comments, questions concerning Mrs. Foster's report?
Yeah, just one question, so I make sure I have some clarity, but Mr. Chairman. On this moratorium expired July 25th, just make sure I'm clear in my head, if anybody asks me. Anybody that was behind in the rent at that time, would this back pay have to be paid up? Would it still be owed for the back pay, or what? How does that work?
So the residents will be responsible for their rent. So what we can do is implement a plan to say that once the moratorium is lifted, we can put out a 30-day notice, inform them that this is currently in place, and then we can meet with those that are having difficult times paying their rent due to, losing their job or lack of income. Then we can put them on a workout plan to make payments up until they meet that, to pay off their debt.
Okay. Again, I hope that explanation can really be given to the neighborhood presidents, the community presidents, so they can be able to explain also to the residents who might come to them with this situation that they're in. So we just want to make sure that everybody kind of feel assured that they're not going to get put out right now.
Yes, sir.
You know.
And I actually had a meeting with CJB yesterday.
Okay.
Discussed this process in the
Okay.
And we will definitely put out language and documentation out to the CJB and the residents to ensure they know this is the process they will follow.
Okay. All right.
Do we currently anticipate there being a large portion of our residents that are not going to be able to make payment by July 25th or that are currently in arrears? More so than usual?
I'm not quite sure at this point, but what I can do is have our housing operations staff to review have each property management to review the system and see who's behind on their rent and identify at least the number of residents that we said maybe possibly behind on their rent.
Okay. It would probably be good for us to see kind of where that
Yeah.
stands before this. I mean, we're kind of getting close to it now before the end of July. So getting an idea of if there's something that can be done to help that, or if we need to look at what our protocols are to make sure that there is some, enough leeway given to allow people to get back on their feet. I think that's important.
I think rent collections are down.
Hmm?
I think rent collections are down because we did a rent collection report and I just opened it and I wasn't looking at it, but in my memory, I remember seeing things in the 80s, meaning if we billed $100, only $80 got paid. So I saw, which normally our numbers are in the 90s or the 100s. So I do believe rent collections are down.
We do know that they're down, but we just need to get them to see how many.
I guess the question would be, is it because somebody, didn't get enough hours during the last 2 months, or is it because they're furloughed or certain jobs are not there anymore, or,
See, our rent adjusts.
Ms. Adams, you might need to come to the mic so Commissioner Lewis can hear
Yeah,
you.
I have some questions too.
All right. Come up next time.
Yeah, it may be coming up later.
Yeah, our rent's gonna adjust as long as they've noticed us. The rent's gonna go to 30% of the income. So if your income goes to zero, that's zero rent. So, they're better than, I would say, most of the United States. If you're living in public housing, you're doing better than most. It's people who chose not to pay their rent, and we found most of the people we're putting out have committed fraud to the agency 9 out of 10 times, where we've had to back charge them because they did have a job. When it gets into the big dollars, sometimes they don't want to live there. We find out that they vacated the units and we're writing those off. So you'll see this month for tenant write-offs that we're down to like $4,000, and on average we're in the $60,000. So it just tells you right there, we're not putting anybody out. These are people who are just leaving, or we're finding out that they vacated the units. So she's just trying to tell you, we're not even going to start an eviction process on them until after July, and not even on July 25th. We're going to notice them with 30 days. Normally we would give them, I think, 7 or 10 days at that point. We're going to give you 30 days. And they're going to be working with the tenants to do a repayment agreement, meaning you come in and you owe $1,000 and we say, okay, pay us $100, and then for the next 12 months, pay us, $75 extra every month. So we're.
And I also add to that is, that's why we're allowing them to self-certify themselves to bring in those unemployment letters. So at this point, if they reduction in income, we can start doing those calculations now instead of waiting till later to ensure that we start putting on that folks pay on what hopefully will change and reducing their rent to where it currently is.
And it sounds like y'all are on top of it, so as long as they get the notice, that this is what needs to be done on their end.
Right, and our drop boxes are open. We know we're not meeting in person with anybody, but if you've noticed us, we may have to go back 3 months and recalculate your rent, but that's fine. And that's allowed. What's not allowed is me to charge them rent and then go back and take it away. But if I shouldn't have charged them rent, then yes, I can. But if they were to pay us that rent, I cannot go take the rent away. Then it comes to you guys once they vacate. So it's just rules to how the HUD money works.
So, Mr. Abington, Chairman.
Go ahead.
So probably in August or somewhere in September, the charge-offs going to show us it's going to double or triple?
I'm gonna say it might even be October. So it could
October,
be
okay.
September or October, but you're gonna see them go up tremendously.
That's what
I'm not
yeah.
gonna be surprised to see a $200,000 charge-off come through. So I've been trying to forewarn you, we can't go to 4,000 from an average of 60 and not expect to catch up. Sadly, it's happening at the end of our fiscal year, so it would make our scores be really terrible, but I believe HUD is not going to give us a score for 2020, which is excellent for us because this is 5 points. TARS is 5 points out of 100, and if that means you're already starting at 95. So I think they're not going to do that, and that's going to work out better for this agency.
Yes, my question. I take care of that. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Abington.
You're welcome.
The only thing I added to Ms. Foster's report, which is great, by the way, I just urge us, I wouldn't say it just for this meeting, but also for the employees in the back to work plan, just to keep an eye kind of on the, where things are headed. If things change in the next 2-4 weeks, as Commissioner Hood's brought up, we just got to stay on top of it. Just, kind of can't rest on people to tell us what to do. We got to go out and find what to do. But it looks like y'all are doing it, and the plan looks good, and, just kind of keep an eye on it.
You good?
I'm next, so I'm just waiting.
Okay, all right. So, then any other comments or questions concerning Mrs. Foster's report? Ms. Foster, I do want to get clarity. I think you would mention about the summer camp. So, are we having in-person summer camp? Is that what I heard?
I can't be that sorry.
Are we having in-person summer camp? Like,
No, sir.
Okay.
We're not. We're just, what the community centers are doing is they're putting together, craft boxes so that the kids can have something to do throughout the summer, to keep them active. In the interim of doing that, we're working to use this virtual village to start reaching out for our educational pieces and so forth. So we're currently in the discussion with the CJB and Kinston staff to kind of see where we are moving forward, not just for the summer months, but throughout the year.
okay, so, the dollars that were set aside for the employees, the temporary employees that normally work the summer camp, what are those dollars? Where are we going to place those dollars, or how are those dollars going to be deployed? Will we have temporary employees to assist with the virtual summer camp, or are those funds going to be diverted somewhere else?
So in the discussion, we're determined to try to use some of those, not all the residents that we've been using in the past. I can't remember the number. I think we used to hire about 100 to 200 youth. So we're breaking that down to a very low number, due to the social distancing, and we have the use of all those kids in a community center setting at this time. So we're looking at using hiring some of the youth for the summer programs, and but just not that many at this point. So we're currently in discussion, and how we're moving forward with those. But again, I think we're condensing the number down to about 25. I think it is that we're considering doing the hiring to assist with these programs.
Okay. Vice Chair.
Just for clarity, what would they be doing?
Through our virtual tutoring, we're looking at them to tutor the kids,
Mhm.
work with them on setting up arts and crafts
Mhm.
to present to the families, when they're in the house. So some of the things that are being discussed to assist them with.
The reason I asked that, I'm sorry, Ms. Evident, I know the Birmingham school system now is still trying to determine how they're going to have classes this year. I heard some wild, anyway, I heard some things, but I don't know if they're going to work. But going into, like you said, going into the school year, I know we had talked one time about broadband, where we can have our young people on computers, and I guess had to come to the community center. I don't know how that was going to be set up, how they're going to be able to access their schoolwork. I don't know, have the resource people that have said that they was going to help out, I don't know the status on that yet. Are they still going to try to provide that internet service, like with Spectrum and others? Are they going to still do that and be part of the summer work as well?
So Yes, we are in discussion with several partners we're looking to either donate devices and software to these devices to assist these kids that do not have access to laptops and so forth. So we're meeting with other agencies to assist in that effort, and also to use some of our CARES Act to identify ways to bring Wi-Fi into all the communities across the board. So we're meeting, I want to say weekly, with these partners to kind of identify how we can move forward with this effort and the devices that the kids need to use for school.
I'll be quiet after this,
No, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. I just, I'm thinking you said about the tutoring for the summer. I'm looking at what happened after the summer, and we had these students who still got to come in there, and they don't have a sense of literacy on computers, and they got to do their work. Are we going to be able to have money put to the side some kind of way where we can help those kids throughout the year? I don't know.
We're looking into the CARES Act funding that we received. We're looking for those funds to assist us again in partnering with these agencies to either purchase these devices, purchase their software, or purchase the part of the initiative to get the installation of Wi-Fi on the sites, and maybe partners to take up the monthly cost for those services. I don't want to mention names because again, we're still in discussion with these agencies to see, how we can work together to get this done. But we're definitely thinking about not just the summer, but across the board all year long to have these devices to these children and able to use these devices in their homes.
But I'm also thinking, who's going to be there to help them be able to be articulate in terms of using this software as it relates to their education? Is everybody going to be there to help them understand how to do this work?
Yes, sir. So the software providers, they would be the education, they're filling in the education piece of how to use the devices in the software.
Okay.
And the only thing I wanted to remind the commissioners is our budget starts on July 1 and ends on June 30th. So it's, whether we have the summer camp program this year, we had it last year, and we're hopefully going to have it next year. So it's not something, because of the way our budget runs, it's kind of split between 2 fiscal years, a normal summer camp program. So that was all I wanted to say. So I don't want you to go, oh, you're eliminating it. If it's not there, it could be more robust next year. You might be able to run it longer, like you're saying. If we're only doing 25 kids, then we might be able to change the 25 kids out as the year goes. And instead of being summer camp, it could be just, arts and crafts throughout the year. I just saying, don't think you want to eliminate it because it's over a 2-year. It would affect 2 fiscal years.
I know Karen's about to go over the budget when she do her financial piece, but when the board approves the budget, we were able to put in a position, a VP of community engagement position in this budget that we can interim fill, and when this person gets this position, they can take full speed ahead of this initiative and move us through it as we need to. So that it'll be improvement to the agency with this person being in this position to help us move this forward.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Ms. Foster, were everybody included in these meetings for the summer students, and where would they be coming from? All the centers or where?
Yes,
For the
ma'am.
summer program?
Yes, ma'am. They would be spread out throughout all the communities. I'm not quite sure, but I'm not sure if it was 25 from each site at this point, or if it was a 25 total. I can't remember, but it will come from every site in our portfolio.
Well, are the resident leaders, CPHP presidents involved in all that, so they would know what's going on in their community? Are they included in that?
Yes, they will be able to help us assist in identifying, some of the kids that will be going through the hiring process. Yes, ma'am.
And they also include that planning the program for the summer?
Yes, ma'am. They will be. And again, when this position is in place, start, in our July 1, budget. And then they would start making these meetings to meet with the CJD and, with the team to identify how to move forward in the hiring process of these youth and within the programming.
Yeah, so, Ms. Foster, I don't know if you heard the last part. She was wanting to know if the CPAB had been included in the planning process for the curriculum.
Yes, the CPAB had a meeting with housing operations, I think it was this week or last week, to discuss the summer programming. But I do understand that it went towards a virtual village discussion. So we're going to recap that meeting again to ensure they got a full understanding of what we're doing for the summer.
Okay. All right. Sure.
So just to piggyback off of Ms. Foster's stipend, so we're not gonna bring them all in because we don't wanna go through that whole hiring process for a month. And what they presented was doing a stipend for those youth that would be coming in.
So it won't be the normal salary that they normally receive every summer?
So they would probably calculate it up to where we'll still be the same amount, but we just don't wanna go through the process of bringing all those, however many kids it is in, to go through the whole hiring process, because that will be additional funds. And so what the discussion was, and I don't know if it's been totally approved, but what the discussion was to do it through a stipend program. And they are supposed to be doing a presentation to where they would provide the stipend maybe every 2 weeks, which is how the youth were getting paid initially. So that's a process that I believe is ongoing. I'm not sure where they are as far as presenting it.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have a problem as long as the money came out to be the same. I wouldn't have a problem with how it was dispersed or how it was set up, whether it was a stipend or salary. I'm indifferent about that, but I am concerned about the money part.
Yes.
I'm concerned about making sure that these kids are getting the same amount of money for the summer job that they would have gotten last year.
And we'll make sure we communicate that with Mom Matthews. He's the one who's leading that, I believe. Isn't that correct, Ms. Foster? No, I believe Mom Matthews is the one who's leading that. And we'll make sure we communicate that with them.
Well, Chairman, one other thing, I know this probably is something that's not, maybe not. Are we teaching our kids as they go through this process of working for HABD any money management skills?
So
if that's possible, I don't know.
yes, so they are under role models with the community center coordinators. So they lead them through the process and take them through training. So I would think that the money management would be a part of that training they're taking them through. Because they do go through a training. That's their learning curve, is going through the training under the community center coordinators.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Commissioner Lewis was asking. It sounded like she was asking were the resident council and the presidents involved in the selection process of the students. Was that what she was asking?
Yeah, I think that was part of her question as well, and yeah. And I thought Ms. Foster answered the question. Didn't you answer it?
You did? Okay.
Just to reassure the answer. So they will be a part of it. They assist us in identifying the kids that are could be helpful in this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, very good, very good. All right. Financial services. Ms. Foster.
And everything, VP of Finance.
So I'm going to do the financial statements for central office and public housing. First one. Anything that's down the side is, say, out of budget by more than 10%. I did not flag interest income. It's way over budget, but I'm not going to complain, so I'm just going to say yay. Number one is the mod inspector salaries. They're under budget, and it's because we have a vacant mod inspector position. And we've changed that in the current budget to, I think, a lead mod inspector. Number two, other income is under budget. And this is under budget because we're all aware the city cut us out of their budget. So Number 3, insurance proceeds, and this is under budget. We're doing the work, but we have yet to be reimbursed for the work. Number 4, office expenses, under budget. I'm putting this down to us really like not wasting the paper, and not, which saves on the printing and the ink and the paper. And we're doing a lot of scanning in my department, and I think other departments are too. Number 5 is legal. We're over in our legal expenditures. A lot of that was due to the development activities when we did the negotiations of Southtown. Training and travel obviously is under budget. We've been training, but it's been free training, but nobody's been traveling. So I don't expect that to get anywhere near 100%. Number 7, resident participation funds. So 5 of the sites have received resident participation funds so far, and I'm going to tell you that 2 more within the month of June will receive it. Southtown, who hasn't received anything for, I think, since 2018 because they were unable to open a bank account, so we're able to reissue a check to them from 18. And Morton Simpson, I know, just finalized some work with us, so they'll be getting funded also. Maintenance contracts are over budget, and I don't expect that to, it's going to continue to be over budget as we go on. Well, you know what, I'm saying that, but it may actually come in line just because we haven't been doing any work in the units that was an emergency. So that actually may not be. And number 9 is the capital additions, and those are insurance, or if we had a fire damaged unit, or if we bought a vehicle or something, and that is under budget also. So that's it for the financial statements. And we're doing pretty well. And sadly to say, I think it's going to continue to get only better, just because we're not really out there in full force doing what we've been doing for years and years and years. So, and just to let you know, when I bring Section 8 in August, anticipate them having a very large bottom line. They were given COVID money in this fiscal year. It has to be tracked and spent in a specific way, but I'm going to have to add it. So it's going to add about $600,000 to their bottom line, and we'll use it to pay the expenses or the COVID expenses or things that are allowable under it. But just as public housing got CARES Act money, Section 8 got CARES Act money, and while they've been doing a very good job, I don't think they've been doing a $600,000 good job. So I'm just bringing that to your attention, so when it comes, you're not shocked in August going, ooh, it's coming from one specific thing, and that money cannot be added to our reserve funds. So if we don't spend it, it goes back. So understand that's the first money I'm going to be spending for them.
Excuse me, Ms. Abington, when you say we'll use it, will you use that? Will you use those funds without the approval of the board?
No, it
Okay.
has to be used on the program itself.
Okay.
So let's just say it like this: regular admin fees can get added to their reserve. COVID admin fees cannot be added to their reserve. So the first monies we're going to use are the COVID admin fees.
Okay.
So you'll see that, and then you'll see a line where we're taking, might be management fee or bookkeeping fee, but it's about $600,000, and that would be difficult for us to spend through December, because we have until December 31st. So it's like use it or lose it money, so I would think you'd want me to use it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If there's the normal fees though, can they roll over into the
The
general?
normal fees can roll over. That's why I'm going to hit the COVID money first.
Okay.
So I read all the stuff on it just to be sure I was clear on how it had to work.
So there's potential, say in December, where we've almost only used the CARES Act money, we may have some extra money.
I'm going to start back in April. So I'm going April, May, June, July, all the way through that way. By the time we get to December, we should be done. And then any monies that are being made in the program will be the program's money, not eligible to go back to HUD.
Thank you.
You may get part of marked off of
I can't hear you.
You said you're gonna start back in April. We got some weeks in March we can use too.
I can't do March because the money I'm gonna do in April, May, and June is just admin fee and bookkeeping fee. I'm not gonna try to go back and find expenses. I'm just gonna go for things that I know I can expend it through the end of the year, and that's why. It's only March 27th. I'm not gonna play with 5 days. I'll just go to April and it'll be clean.
Vice Chairman.
Okay. When you say expenses, would you kind of give me some specifics in a sense, what you're talking about?
For those, it will specifically be in this fiscal year, it's gonna specifically be admin fee, like money paid to central office.
Okay,
So the management fees and the bookkeeping fees due to central office. So when I tell you Section 8 can never really afford to pay all the money that's due to central office, well, it can now. Okay, actually can, so. Any other questions? Okay. TARS, said it's $4,000. There was no evictions. It breaks down about $4,000 in rent and $360 in maintenance charges, less the security deposit, so it's back to $4,000. And on a positive note, we have so far this fiscal year received about $23,000 from the MIS system going after bad debt. And we are down $300,000 from this fiscal year to last fiscal year in tenant write-offs. And that's why I'm telling you that I think, come October, you might see $300,000 show up, and I would not be surprised. And that's about it for TARS.
All right, so I move to approve the charge-offs for period ending May 31st, 2020.
second.
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that item's approved.
Lastly is the site budgets for the 2021 fiscal year. And these are for public housing, central office, project-based rental assistant, and Section 8. And we've had a work session on it and committee meetings on it. I've included any changes that you guys have asked, including I added to the significant changes the new rate that had published for 2019 of 97,077%. That's the proration. And I added the Vice President of Community Engagement to the significant changes sheet. I'd already included it in the budget, but just to let you know that it was in there and it has been included. And I think I didn't print that one for myself. I apologize, I can't read it to you. Any questions?
So I don't have any questions. I think that we did have, I want to say that the board had adequate time and information to be able to approve this item on today. I know that Dr. Hood did not attend the work session, but he was at the committee meeting, and he got the Cliff Notes version of the work session. So if any board members at this time, if you are unclear about the budget, if you want some clarification on the budget, this is the time to do it.
And I think you guys did a great job going through it all. Is it attached to the board packet?
No.
Oh, I sent it forward once I made the revisions. I apologize. I didn't send it to you individually, so.
So, but I saw the revisions. It was a separate document. It was a separate document.
Separate, okay.
And I can verify that all of the items that were of concern were addressed in that document.
May I say one thing?
Sure.
This was something that Dr. Hood brought up in our committee meeting, and I just wanted to let him know and the commissioners know. So this is a budget, And that at any time during the fiscal year, if it needs to be changed, say your new president, CEO comes on and they want to make changes, they just bring it back with the changes and have you approve a new budget. So it's not, this is set in stone. If you, even during the year, if you think changes need to be made, depending on what part of the year you're in by your own policy, you may not have to change the budget. You may just, if you're 6 months in the next half of it, you can just make the changes. You don't have to go back and do a new budget. So, but if it's at the beginning when the man or woman shows up and wants to make changes, then you just make the changes. And then they have to come back before you. So he can't just make the change. I'm just saying that because you were like, we want to give them leeway to make changes. And yes, you can, but you need to come back and present a new updated budget so that it can be with the financial statements. Some of the questions that sometimes they'll ask us, especially auditors, et cetera, will have to do with, do you have an approved budget? And then they're going to ask for the budget and they're going to look at the financials that are being prepared and make sure that everything's consistent. So I don't want you to think you can change it without approving it. You definitely have to reapprove a new budget or revise, however you want to look at it. And I did want to add this. I'm 50 today. Today's my birthday, I'm 50.
Happy birthday.
So
Happy
you
birthday.
guys have to be nice to me. I waited till the end, though.
I see. All right. Okay, so if there's no issues with the budget, or if you want to spend some more time looking at the document, feel free to let me know. But if not, if you're satisfied with what we have, then the matters before us, and I do want to make sure that we highlight or make the focus that we are in the process of a president CEO search. So we do want to make sure that it is understood that whomever the president CEO is has the latitude to make revisions to the budget and bring those to the board for approval. So I want to make sure that we're on record saying that. I don't know if that needs to come by way of a resolution. I think our policy covers that, but I want to make sure that we're on record to state that whoever the president CEO is, once they come in, they do have the latitude to make revisions as they see fit. And the board, of course, has approved those revisions to the budget, but we do want to make sure that we allow them the latitude to make changes as they see fit as far as the budget is concerned.
And they'll be able to make changes without the board consent. They will bring it to the board to make those changes. How would that work?
Yeah, it will have to come to the board, Mrs. Lewis, as far as any revisions to the budget. It'll have to come to the board for approval.
Okay.
Right. All right, so if there's no other discussion concerning the budget, I move for approval of the site central office project-based rental assistance and Section 8 budgets for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that item's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abington. All right, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Birthday.
If we had known, would have got you a cake.
I have a cake and I'm gonna have cookies when I go home.
Come fast.
All right, very good. All right, procurement, Ms. Foster.
Yes, Paul Edwards, Director of Procurement.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning. Good afternoon.
This afternoon, I'm seeking approval and award of a contract for consultant services to prepare a competitive application for a Choice Neighborhood Planning Implementation Grant. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District requested proposals from both an experienced consultant and housing developer or development team to prepare and submit a Choice Neighborhood Planning Implementation Grant application. to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under the Choice Neighborhood Initiative Program for 2020. One firm or individuals submitted a proposal in response to the RFP. The proposal was evaluated. The firm scored in the competitive range of 80 points or above. Brynshore Development received an overall score of 87 points and submitted a proposal fee of $46,000 for the planning grant submission phase and $279,500 for the implementation grant submission phase. Therefore, management recommends award of a contract to Brynshore Development in the amount specified above. Based on a feasibility assessment by the recommended company, HBD will make a determination to move forward with the application or not if it doesn't seem feasible.
All right. Yeah. So is this for a specific community? This the planning and implementation grant, is this for a specific community, or is this just a blanket type consultant that will advise on maybe which sites would be conducive to a choice neighborhood grant?
Now, the two sites specified in the RFP were Islington Village and Smithfield, and Corey.
Commissioner Davis. May I ask Corey Starr, who has to be here, so he can give you a background of the planning for the commission, the choice neighborhood with Islington Smithfield?
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So when we had a pre-bid, right? Pre-proposal. So in our conference with the potential proposers, we met with them and let them know the vision that we intended for the choice neighborhood. And so that is to redevelop Islington Village as well as Smithfield Court. Excuse me. It's kind of hard to talk in this. And so that will include looking at those sites and see if we can do a one-for-one replacement of those units on site, as well as partnering with the city to see how we can bring amenities to the community for both of those sites. That's the vision that we have, but we are still open to looking at some of our other sites if the consultants see that those may be more feasible and may score higher for the Choice Neighborhood Initiative.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stallworth. Now, I know that we had an RFP out several months ago for a developer partner for Islington and Smithfield. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I asked this question several months ago, and I don't really think I got a definitive answer why we did not proceed with that RFP, why it was pulled back. And so I guess my concern is we're moving forward with a consultant to advise on the Choice Neighborhood Grant as far as the implementation and a planning grant. And we had an RFP for a developer partner, and still trying to figure out what happened to that process. I just haven't gotten clarity why we didn't move forward with that process. And it wasn't brought to this board to get our input if we wanted to see it move forward or not. So that's my main concern, is it wasn't brought before the board to see if we wanted to proceed with the process. It was just pulled back, seems to me, arbitrarily without consultation with this body. So I guess if you could explain to me why we pulled the RFP back for the developer partner for the Choice Neighborhood Grant. For the Islington and Smithfield. And I guess that's the main question, is why we pulled that back. And if we did pull it back and there was a reason for it, do we anticipate those running concurrently with a developer partner and the consultant running in a concurrent track?
Okay.
I know it's a lot, but
yes. So I can't speak to entirely why we pulled it back, but I can foresee that we did not move forward with it because that was a part of our initial attempt to find a consultant early last year. And so that was a sole source, and so HUD did not approve us to move forward with that when we made the first attempt. And so that's why we probably didn't move forward with that proposal for developer partner then at that time. Because we needed to go back out and make it a little bit more competitive, take some of the field office advice on how we release these RFPs. And so when we released the RFP for consultant, it also included a developer in this solicitation that's before you for approval today, so that we can have them as a team so they can work, as you said, concurrently and jointly to help us to come up with the master plan as well as fill out the application for the choice neighborhood. So that's the better route to take.
So this consultant will serve as a developer partner as well, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so this company does development as well as expertise in filling out the application. Because when you submit the application for the implementation, you have to have a master plan. And so with the master plan, you have to have an architect on board, as well as sourcing and identifying funds to partner along with the agency to complete the work. So you definitely have to have a developer on board.
So are you saying that HUD advised that we did not maybe go out with the RFP properly when we sent the information out to solicit for developers? Is that what you?
So I'll let Mr. Edwards speak to that. That's in his wheelhouse.
Okay, when we do a single source and we have to send it to HUD because we have to get their approval, if they deny it, we just can't move forward with it. So, like on this one, when we sent it forward to HUD for approval, we got approved because they said they deemed it where we did the correct procedures to make sure that we crossed all the I's, cross the T's and dotted all the I's, make sure that it conforms to all the HUD policies and procedures. So the previous one, HUD found it lacking in certain aspects of it, so they denied it, but they approved this one to move forward.
And so the previous solicitation, that was a sole solicitor, if you will. Only one group solicited a bid in the previous.
I'm trying to remember because I was trying to track and see how Corey expressed it, but I'm trying to remember what happened with that. I think it just got pulled because the president and CEO decided not to move forward with it. I don't think it had to go to HUD for approval because it never made it to that certain stage. But I think it got pulled by the president and CEO.
Okay. Well, that contradicts, I guess, what was said. So the president and CEO pulled the contract, or did HUD say, hey, we think you're going down the wrong track?
And I can't remember because we've done a few of these, so I can't remember the one from last year. I think it got pulled by.
Tom Brown was the one that you sent to HUD, I believe, that they said it wasn't out long enough.
Now Tom Brown was, yeah. Now that one was.
This one just got pulled.
But I think this just got pulled. I don't think it went to this one didn't go to, the last one didn't go to HUD. It just got, the president and CEO decided not to move forward with it. So we came back this year and did the one for the implementation and the planning grant.
Okay,
The proposer also
Step to the mic, please.
The proposer also, now it's coming to my remembrance, the whole thing, but the proposer also notified the agency that they could not proceed with assisting us with the grant at that time too. So I do remember that.
The grant couldn't be done in the time that he needed to be.
Okay.
They couldn't complete it.
It just makes sense. I don't know then why did they give you that response? What was the reason for that response?
Yes.
Since everyone's going from memory, can we have opportunity to gather that document to see what actually happened to the district board, so you have accurate information?
Yeah, I think you might need to, get a little bit, because to be honest with you, and I guess I didn't read it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that this entity was serving as a developer as well. I thought that they were just serving as the consultant to prepare the planning grant and implementation grant. But I didn't know that there was a developer piece that was attached to this.
Right. I guess my other question would be, if there's a time limit that we need to meet in order to submit it.
So right now, the NOFA is not out. It's normally released around June this time, letting us know that the funding is available and giving us a deadline probably in the fall to submit that. So right now, probably because of COVID, that it will be pushed back. So we're really a little bit ahead of the game, but it still would be to our advantage to move forward with this so we can start the planning process with the residents as well as with the developer, and also getting our other partners that's needed for this, because it's a very large endeavor.
That's what I'm thinking.
Seems like we need to get an explanation on what happened in the past, but it probably won't affect this RFP in front of us, right? I mean, it's something we should look into, but.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know why it was pulled, if that's information's available.
Sure.
I'm sure there was some kind of justification or reason why we didn't move forward at that time. Because if there was a reason why we didn't move forward at the time, that reason may still be. Still. Right, so.
Now, I can attest to, now I wasn't a part of pulling the RFP, but we did not move forward with the choice neighborhood at that time because also it was time constraints, very time sensitive. And so we had an internal meeting with our partners, which one of them was the city at the time. And we just realized that we would not have enough time to be successful in submitting that application.
Okay.
So we didn't move forward with actually applying for that year.
So I got two things, and then I'm gonna pass it on.
Okay.
Have you had consultation with the city concerning this procurement?
Yes, we have had talks with the cities concerning.
And they know that we have gone out to seek a consultant partner for the Choice Neighborhood Grant.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The second thing is, as far as the funds, how will those funds be dispersed for the number one for the planning grant? How will those funds be dispersed? So if the consultant puts together the package for the planning grant, all right, will those funds be dispersed? Whether it goes all the way through to the application process or not?
So if we are successful with the planning grant, those funds will go back into the project to assist us with the implementation.
Okay.
But what's supposed to be released next is actually the implementation and not the planning.
Okay.
So that would be the one we would go after.
We'll go after the
Implementation. That should
Okay.
be the next one unless HUD makes changes and put out a planning again.
Okay.
And the implementation is the big one that's worth like 30 million.
Right. And so if we're not successful, then what happens to those funds? They're just funds that the consultant is due for services rendered.
Yeah, we would still have to pay our consultant. So if we're unsuccessful, we don't get any of the planning grant dollars or any of the implementation dollars, and we would still be responsible for paying our consultant because they actually would render work for the application. But those are things that we can always use in any redevelopment if we want to go back again and apply maybe for the planning next time if that's put out. We can use those documents for that, or it's a master plan, so we can always use a master plan if we choose to go another route and maybe do 4% tax credits and historic tax credit ourselves. Those are documents that the Housing Authority will own.
So we'd only be out to 46,000.
Yes.
If they do the implementation grant.
That's on the planning grant, right?
Yeah.
The
If they do the
46,000.
implementation grant, it's the 279.
Then it gets bigger to the 270, okay. But you gotta get accepted to the implementation to have to get into that ballpark.
Right.
So it wouldn't be the full amount.
Say it again, Ms. Walsh.
It wouldn't be the full 200 something.
Oh,
Right, so 200 some thousand for the implementation grant of $30 million.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
One other question I was mentioning, I was trying to get there on that tax credit. Usually there's it's competitive in terms of tax credit, right?
9%. What I was referring to was the 4%.
Oh, so that's not as competitive.
Competitive.
Okay, that's why I wanted to be sure. Okay, we good.
Have you met with the resident leadership in Smithfield concerning this item as far as what your plans are as far as going after the Choice Neighborhood Grant?
So we had initial conversations there. We've had initial conversations last year where we talked just about our plans of what we were going to do. But a part of the Choice Neighborhood and having the consultant on board will be to have those meetings with the CPAB, to have those meetings with the larger resident body at each site, as well as the citizens in those neighborhoods that are not HABD residents. So all of that will go in more detail once we have the consultant on board.
Okay.
But excuse me, but we always say that, but that never happens. The resident leaders never know what happened until after the fact. They would like to be sent to the table, because like myself at Freedom Manor, a lot of changes was made after you all stopped meeting with me, things that I didn't know about until after the fact. They really would like to be at the table during the whole process, if that's not a problem.
So,
I would say we can definitely assure that, because that is a requirement that we meet with all these stakeholders as we move forward with the application. It's a requirement to show our documentation and their feedback and their engagement in the process.
Yeah, and I support that 100%, that you do meet with the the stakeholders and the resident leadership. But I think it would be a professional courtesy to let them know that you were at least submitting the application for or where you were procuring the consultant services. So I think as a professional courtesy, I think that probably would have been the most prudent thing to do, was to notify the resident leadership, hey, we're moving forward with a consultant. Still not, you still have time.
well, I just would like to add, we did go over that in our meeting with the CPAB regarding the annual plan.
Okay.
So all of our redevelopment efforts were included in that annual plan meeting with the CPAB, and we went over them in detail.
Okay, all right, very good.
So I know I usually sound like a broken record, but to me, I see this as a key function of the VP of Community Engagement. I think they would be involved in that, and I think because that position has been vacant, I think that creates that gap that would have been filled. So I think as soon as we get somebody on board for that, I think that we can alleviate some of these communication issues that seem to continue to keep coming up.
And on that same note, I know you say you presented it in a budget meeting, in a meeting, and explaining to them what's going on. But sometimes in a broad meeting like that, sometimes people miss the communication that's going on. Okay? And sometimes when they're going to narrow that scope. If you got to do two or three at a time, you might look at that broader scope. People's minds just float away and get boring in there, and they ain't heard nothing you said. And that seems to be what done happen. Okay? So you need to look at your procedure, or how you present your information. Communication is very important.
Definitely.
If not, you're going to have something to derive out of it, like we have it now. But Mr. Chairman, based on, I think Mr. Potassi would finish say that on this part, that we go ahead and approve what is before us, and then the other one, RSP that was pulled, maybe we need to come back and get the information about that and see what we do with that at a later date.
Well, if it's the pleasure of this board, we can move forward. If you want to move forward with this item, if it's your pleasure, somebody can make a motion.
I'll put a motion to approve the RFP awarded for, let's see, contract for consulting services to prepare a competitive application for a Choice Neighborhood Planning Implementation Grant. I believe the award, make sure I get the name right, is set to go to the Brenshore Development Group. I submit that motion for approval.
All right.
Chairman,
we have a question.
Before we move on that motion, is it possible that to clear it up, make sure that the CPAB board have one more opportunity to know where we're going and then proceed to approve it.
So we got a motion on the floor. We got a motion on the floor. If we don't have a second, then the motion would die for a lack of a second. Now, if you have a substitute motion, then you can offer a substitute motion.
Let me do this then, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lewis,
Yes, yes,
are you in favor to go ahead on with this, this motion?
okay.
Mr. Chairman, you're a little closer.
You need a second.
Do you,
Repeat that.
Sometimes when I don't answer you, that means my phone is breaking up because the conversation is not very clear.
Okay.
Okay.
are you, willing to go ahead, and approve the motion that's on, the presentation that's before us right now on the, choice neighborhood planning implementation?
Okay, but that was included everything. That's what I didn't hear. Could you please repeat the motion?
I can repeat it if need be. Yeah, Commissioner Lewis, it's basically a motion to approve the award of the RFP to the Brenshore Development Group to have a contract for consulting services to prepare a competitive application for a choice neighborhood planning and implementation grant, in addition to being a development team.
A second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I vote no. Note my no vote. Secretary, all right, that item's approved.
Mr. Chair,
No, I
can we
didn't-
get
I
that
was
report on
thinking-
what happened previously too, though, so that we can kind of flesh that process out?
Yeah, that's fine, you know. The board has voted to proceed. but-
Vice Chairman Todd want to,
Right, I was gonna abstain.
Okay.
I'll
So,
abstain from that.
all right. So if we can make sure we got, for the record, we have, 3 yes. Commissioner Lewis, was that a yes?
That was a yes.
Okay, so we have 3 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. All right, and so that document, you could provide that for, okay, very good. Okay.
and to your point, making sure, and Commissioner Lewis' point, that we do engage with the CPAB
That's what I'm.
if and when the contract is ratified or what have you.
And Dr. Hu, not on that, because we want to have the comments that they want to inform, I think somewhere it to be in writing or something need to be documented. Those who attended that particular meeting was there, and they got to understand it because this is part of HUD requirement. And they come back saying that they didn't understand something, and we got a problem.
Yes, sir. So we'll do is
We
we'll
got a problem.
have minutes,
Mhm.
and we'll have a sign in, and also we'll have a support letter from the CJB to ensure that everything was understood and that they are supported.
Right, I'm fine with that. We can get that. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Next item?
See how it goes.
Yes, ma'am.
I said, we'll see how it goes.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, human resources.
Amanda Jackson, make sure, VP of Human Resources.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, again.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon, everyone. So Commissioners, you have in front of you a request to approve a telework policy. As you know, we have a temporary telework policy in place, and now we're requesting for a permanent telework policy to be approved. We're proposing to do a pilot first by only approving telework for certain circumstances. Once employees return back to work with their normal hours. Those circumstances, you have an attachment that we're looking at is for inclement weather, public health emergency, national, federal, state, city, or county or state emergency, special projects, youth activities, childcare, business travel, and others on a case-by-case basis. And then, of course, proper documentation may be requested. Now, these would be considered informal or ad hoc telework requests. And an employee would need to request this telework, and the telework will not exceed 30 days without resubmission of a request and approval. This telework would not include an employee working every day. We have also established a committee to assess and monitor this pilot program, as we, of course, have not been able to get a good grasp of what we have going on now. We do have employees that are teleworking now, but again, we have not been functioning to its complete status. And some of the things that the committee would do, they will work with the employees, the supervisors, the department heads to assess positions to determine which positions are conducive to telework. They will work with IT to research a possible system to utilize. They will provide a survey for employees to provide feedback. And then after the pilot, be able to make any modification needed in order to begin the formal telework program. And an employee must be employed for 12 months to qualify for the formal telework program, and then we'll follow the guidelines listed in the policy and procedures. And then, commissioners, you all have attached to your board action the circumstances, the HABD telework policy and procedures, the telework agreement and request form, safety self-certification, and then Appendix A that goes over the terms and the agreement. Commissioners, do you all have any questions?
Who ultimately makes the approval? Is that person's direct supervisor, or does it come all the way up to your level?
So it would be the supervisor and then also the department head in consultation with the HR department.
Okay.
So, my question, go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, is that gonna be policy, you know, as you said, it depends on the supervisor would have the last say so?
Well, the department head would have the last say so in consultation with the HR department. But remember, we'll also have that committee that's gonna look at the positions to make sure that the positions are conducive. Because of course, all of the positions are not gonna be able to do telework. So the department head would have the final say so.
So my question is for Attorney Moore. Attorney Moore, have you reviewed this document? And can you tell me to the extent that you've helped to craft this document?
When we initially entered with COVID, we had the temporary policy. I have reviewed this document. I have worked with Ms. Mitchell Jeffries to come up with these, the considerations and the reasoning. Her committee has done a superb job in putting things in place. I've read the entire thing, this legal supply. I don't see, and especially the fact that we are doing it as a pilot, just to see so we can get feedback from the employees. One of the larger issues when they initially started talking about teleworking was being able to decide which positions would fit into the category that they could telework and effectively do the job that they needed to do. So that's why they came up with the pilot, so that we could make sure that if they're doing it as a pilot, we can make sure that that individual in that position is still effectively being a part of the and doing the job that they need to do.
So you're comfortable with the document?
I'm
Okay.
very comfortable.
Okay.
I've read this entire thing. I've worked with the department, with the VP, and everything is in line, and I think they're ready to move forward.
Thank you.
My only other ignorance, if an employee works from home, do we have like and maybe that's on the form that they have to indicate, that they actually have the equipment to be able to work home successfully, or is there a laptop that they can check out if need be, or,
That's correct. So they can request for those equipments, and of course, if we have those equipment, we'll provide those equipment.
Okay.
Seems like everybody looked into it
Yeah.
and did a good job with it, so I'm all right.
All right, if there are no other questions or concerns, the matter is before us.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the teleworking policy and
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that item's approved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. All right, public safety, Ms. Foster.
Public safety report by Director Kingsbury.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
The Public Safety Department and the CSP is continuing to move forward with our model of community policing within our housing communities. This is a balanced approach which includes listening to what staff and residents have to say to us about the needs in their community. We are continuing to educate by passing out flyers on fireworks safety, summer safety tips, and upcoming programs such as Safe Passage, Safe Place, to protect our children, and Neighborhood Block Watch to help protect our residents. We're in the process of scheduling a meeting with the CPAB to discuss the implementation of these programs and additional security measures we believe would benefit our residents. To better connect with our communities, officers have developed trusting relationships with residents and children. In the Smithfield Housing Development, officers adopted 2 elderly residents. CSP officers participated in a parade for a 5-year-old resident for his birthday and provided gifts. CSP officers conducted welfare checks of 3 residents recently with possible mental illness, and BPD case social workers followed up with the residents to provide mental health services. Our current hotspot is Marks Village, with a slight uptick in domestics. Measures taken to resolve this is to first educate our officers by partnering our officers with One Place Metro Alabama Family Justice Center, which is a domestic violence advocacy group. Some officers who have went through that training now can better understand the cause of domestic violence and domestic violence laws. To help assist the victims, One Place and BPD domestic violence officers are made available to the victims as a resource. Additional efforts made to deter crime. Preventive patrols were implemented to provide an increased police presence in our communities. Officers conducted operations in Morton Simpson, Southtown, and also Marks Village. We have also conducted radar checks where speeders have been reported. Our challenges are additional personnel is needed to cover more hours within our communities. Officer shifts are changed and overtime granted to address the current crime trends. Concerning our crime stats, overall crime rate in HABD public housing communities is currently down a negative 19.5% year to date. The community with the largest drop in crime this month, I want to just highlight this community. This community is Ellington Village. And their crime has decreased year to date a negative 55%, has gone down 55%. Additionally, Ellington Village currently has a decrease in property crimes of minus 56% year to date, and a decrease in violent crimes minus 54.2% year to date. These are the results of a concerted effort by staff, residents, and the CSP. We communicate, we listen to each other, we work together, and these are the results. I thank God for the reduction in crime, and we will continue to work hard to ensure staff and residents are safe. That concludes my public safety report. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Foreman, for your report. Are there any questions, comments concerning Mr. Foreman's report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
HABD, at one point, was discussing to have some trained counselors to help facilitate the reduction in, I guess, any behavior issue that might come up in a family situation. And I want to know, are we at that point where we can hire or have some trained therapists? And especially we know that we get a lot of reports from a certain area, and their reports are going to the office manager, that we can do some assistance ourselves to help coattail some of the call that we call on the police to do. And, even they have to come, like we gotta do some kind of follow-up to make sure that we're giving them the proper service, not no one time come in and say, stop doing it. We need some continued work with that. And I know we had, in the past, I thought we had hired some workers to help in the community with certain issues. I don't think we were that level, but we might want to look at that. That's something that you can't handle in terms of the finance. It's something that we have to consider the board. Do we want to put one or two therapists in the program to be able to address these issues that we're having among our residents? And the other thought I had, Mr. Chairman, and to the board, where crime is rising, do we need to look at our security from a different perspective, or limited the way that they can come in, or looking at something, how we can kind of manage and control who goes in and out of that community? I know that's a broad perspective. I know what I'm asking, I know what I'm saying. But when the area start getting infested with crime, that means that we got to go to a more aggressive way to reduce it. We can't get into a place where we don't have the resources, we don't have this, people's lives are in danger. And we got to go to a more aggressive financial means to ensure our residents some safety. Then we just need to do that. And I think we need some plans. I know you said down in Mark Village that the couple last meeting was in, the crime went down. So what was the effectiveness of that happen that we can look at in a broader sense, spreading those concepts in a different area when it started going up? So I know I put a lot out there.
Yes, sir.
To the domestic, hopefully the domestic part of it, violence. What can we do as a housing ministry to help with that particular problem? And the other one where the crime is going up, I don't want to get to the point where it get totally out of control, and then we decide we want to put some more aggressive measurements to it. So we need to do something with that now, because that was pretty much a new location that you just mentioned, that crime just went up. So I just want to, just a conversation for the board right now, if y'all can help me out, if y'all clearly understand what I'm trying to convey here, I'd like to have some comments from the board.
Yeah, I was part of a fundraising campaign for the Junior League earlier this year around a development for a central hub for victims of sexual abuse and domestic violence. And one of the things that I learned through that process is that because of COVID, people are trapped at home with their abusers. And because of that, we are seeing more instances of domestic violence. And I just wonder how much of that may start to resolve itself, or has started to resolve itself now that we're opening back up. But it's still a concern. I think we would be remiss not to mention the moment that we're in right now as a world around Black Lives Matter, and rethinking how we do policing, and maybe reallocating funds that would normally go towards traditional policing to do those social services that you mentioned. So I think it's certainly a conversation, very much worth having. And I don't know, with your colleagues, particularly in law enforcement, what kind of conversations, have been going on, and how might that impact how we preserve the safety of our residents in public housing.
May I start? So I do want to indicate that we do have a process currently in place when it comes to domestic violence and assault and actually mental health. So as I talk about the process, I'm going to ask Mr. Foreman to intervene, but what we do is we do get recommendations from the department managers when there's concerns with something going on in the unit.
Okay.
And what we do is we report it to Mr. Foreman, we get with the BPD, and they have an in-house counselor. And what they do is go to that unit and do an analysis of that individual. And if they see have some concern and see some concerns, they will ask the resident to sign consent form to consider, going to a facility and receiving additional services. And if they sign a consent form, we connect them with our coordinators with our family sufficiency program, and they'll assign them to a resource to get them to receive additional help. Now, there are sometimes that the residents will refuse, and so when they refuse, then we continue to get continuous calls with concerns with that resident at that unit. And if that, each time we receive a call, regardless of them refusing to sign the consent form or not, we still send someone out through BPD to assess them and see if they're harmful to themselves or their neighbors. And if we get their, they provide a report to us indicating what their results are, and we move accordingly based off that.
Okay. Yeah, on that note then, because that was the other part, if they don't consent to be part of any treatment plan to help resolve some of their emotional pain that they're going through, at what point do we say, okay, enough is enough? Because they're in a position where they can be, abusive to themselves as well as causing harm on somebody else. At some point then we have to look at, as an agency, how long do we continue to allow them to have that type of disturbance in their house without us moving on it? Other form?
Ms. Duntre, Ms. Foster, were
you
you?
can say something? Okay.
I was just gonna say, in some instances, what we do is, if we feel there's concern and do not sign a consent form, we reach out to a family member and have a discussion with them to see how we can move forward. They will assist us in allowing them to get help. A lot of times, because instances do go a little further, that it causes a police report to take place. And then unfortunately at that time, we have to take action of eviction. So
Okay.
we do try to stop it at that point, but because sometimes we do have to go to that level.
I'm comfortable with that. I just need to know whether there were any progressive action, trying to resolve that, Mr. Farmer.
And that was the exact same thing I was going to say, what Ms. Foster said. We do follow up, and it's been my experience in the past and my experience working with the Community Safety Partnership and the Birmingham Police Department. If we see that there is even a small percentage or chance that they're a harm to themselves or others, then there's other ways we can move forward as well as reaching out to their residents. And we have been doing all these things. And we want to continue. We want to, when there's a time that we need to bring enforcement into the picture, we're definitely doing that. It's business as usual, but with everything that we've seen happening around the country and the world, we just want to have a more balanced approach, which we have started from the beginning. We want to continue forward.
And the second part of my presentation to you is about the area that the crime is going up. And I want to know what is the objective or what is the goal to minimize or get it under control before it get across the city, everybody saying this area is worse than that area.
A lot of times when crime is going up, it can be for a number of different reasons. Outsiders coming in, domestic violence, all the things that have been spoken of today. And that's one reason I want to bring in more programs. For instance, Block Watch, get the residents involved with looking out for themselves, looking out for their neighbors as well. And a lot of these programs, and when I lived in Detroit, Block Watch did wonders for the neighborhood because the individuals know that these residents care. And these different programs, we're looking at bringing in different security equipment. All these things will help minimize crime. Before the COVID hit, we were really on fire, going to each community meeting, bringing in domestic violence officers, communicating with the residents. The COVID kind of slowed us down, but we're getting ready to kind of get geared back up. And that's why we want to meet with the CPAB board to get their thoughts and help all of us move in the same direction.
One more piece. When you say equipment to come in with the security, what kind of equipment are you speaking of? Are we speaking of strategically putting cameras in hotspots in the areas where most the crime is taking place in that particular community?
Yes, sir. But also the equipment that we're looking at putting in, it is also beneficial for the times that we're living in as far as the COVID-19 time. I have property managers and different individuals who will call me now to let me know when people are gathering outside, and I'll send over the police to remind them about social distancing. Well, with this equipment, it would be able to detect when people are loitering, gathering, and then alert myself and the police, and we can go out and remind them.
In addition to what you just said, I'm thinking about the event that's going to happen this Saturday. Maybe with some of our partners, can we make sure that we provide like additional face coverings and hand sanitizer? If we have some partners that may have surplus of that, I think it would be good to make sure that we have that out there for their benefit.
Yes, sir. As soon as I heard about it, I got on the phone and reached out to a couple of people already.
Cool. Thank you.
Mr. Foreman, I just really appreciate the report, and obviously of all the discussion today, it's about resident safety, and obviously, the numbers are down, and that's a positive in many ways. I know that there are hot spots that change that narrative at times, but and I do like that you highlighted the community policing approach, particularly in light of recent events. And I just kind of, if it's not something that you're prepared to talk about today, would certainly want to kind of continue the discussion moving forward in a way to say, one, is there, have you received any feedback from residents about, yeah, I had this time where I didn't feel comfortable, or, here's some things I hope that we might do better in our police relationships. And then on the flip side, is there anything that you've kind of noticed, just taking in all of the commentary and the protests and everything, is there anything that internally that we can continue to do to grow better in our relationship with the community in this regard? And again, if you're not prepared to talk about it today, I understand, but as we go forward, I would like that to kind of be part of our continuing conversation.
Since the inception of CSP and this model of community policing, when CSP first hit the ground running, the first thing they did was go door to door and knock on the residents' doors, introduce themselves, leave a business card, and got to know the residents by name, the children as well. There was one event, I think it was at Smithfield, and it was a basketball tournament. I asked the police to go there and provide security, and so I went by to check on everything, see how things were going. When I walked into the gym there on Smithfield, the police were not just providing security, but they were one police officer in full uniforms on the floor with a whistle, refereeing. Other police officers were operating the scoreboard, really getting into the community policing. So I've seen it firsthand myself how it has impacted the communities. And residents, I've seen residents come around as well, giving more information, trying to protect their communities, and it's made a big difference. And I know we're not there yet. We still have a long way to go, but I believe we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. And to add to that, meeting with the CPAB yesterday, what they're going to do is they're going to assign a representative from the board to sit in the CSP and HABD meetings weekly, so they can share the information with the CPAB as a whole, and then take out to the other communities.
That's great.
All right, very good. I have one question, Mr. Foreman. I think you mentioned that there was additional personnel needed. I guess you're talking about more officers, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
So how many officers are we down, if you don't mind me asking?
Currently, we have 14 officers. To bring 24-hour adequate protection, we need at least 14 more
officers
Yeah,
to have a complete 24-hour protection. I mean, we have that protection anyway, but the CSP officers that we have under our contract, they have to be off, for at least 2 days a week. They have to sleep, and so additional officers would make sure that our officers who know our community leaders and the residents are on shift.
yeah. Well, I think part of the agreement, if I'm not mistaken, was to have, I think, 28 or 29 officers. My concern would be is, we're paying for just the amount of officers that are working, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we can get up to scale soon, because I know that was what we approved as a board, was to have that amount of officers to patrol our community. So I would like to see how fast we can get up to scale to what we approved. Yeah.
I'll jump just on that. That was my initial comments or statement, that maybe security, or do we have enough persons? What do we need to do and change that area that's going up? Do we have enough individuals to cover that? So if that's in the budget, well, it's already been approved. Maybe we can take some slow steps, Mrs. Atherton, some slow steps, and see can we.
I think it was the police didn't have the staff to staff us.
That's what it
It
was.
wasn't that we weren't able to afford it, it was that they didn't.
Oh,
have the
okay.
staff.
Yeah, because we approved 28, 29 officers or something. Yeah. So
I
the
think what
money's in place.
So what I'm hearing you saying, Vice Chairman, is that since we're not spending that money on those additional officers, could we spend that money on bringing in some additional support services?
Right,
And that maybe even may reduce the need for the additional officers, at least in the short term.
Right. Basically, actually, I was trying to address how we can beef up the security in that area, pretty much. And I did say earlier about the other resources to help out in the social realm, to remove some of the police present in the area of social need, But at the same time, I know that we got some heathens coming from the outside,
Yes, sir.
causing some situations in our neighborhood where we will need to beef up on that part.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, I don't want to look like no police state,
Correct.
okay? Where we ain't got no other social services in there to just deal with those particular issues. I'm talking about for the beef of the security. I'm definitely on that mark with Dr. Hood on that we need to have security to help curtail criminals who coming in there, okay? But those residents who live there, we need to look at what kind of social services that we can put in that can help them maintain what's called legal status while in the housing residence, okay? If that makes sense to everybody.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Who has spending authority on that?
Hmm?
Who actually can make that call to say, we're gonna hire some private security? And is that you? Does it have to come up to you? Like,
So I know what the board approved was the whatever you want to call it. We used to call it the high cops, but it's community
Safety
partnership with the city of Birmingham, and that was for a specific amount, well, up to a certain amount, and so we paid for the additional above baseline services to have those additional officers to patrol our communities, and part of that program was to have 28 officers, throughout our communities. So I'm assuming, I guess that is a Ms. Foster question. I don't know if those funds that we have allocated for the community service police and can be allocated somewhere else. I don't know. That would be a question that you could answer.
Yes, I was going to say that if we're looking to have supplemental security services, we could go out and procure some security, get the security guards, get finance identifying funding for that purpose. We would have to go out and procure it to get other security guard agencies to apply, because we currently have one at Smithfield that's doing those services. So that is something we can definitely look into.
One thing, Mr. Foreman, though, it appears there's a specific kind of training involved in some of the officers that you've been working with. Is it a lack of pool of candidates to fill those additional 14 positions, or what's keep holding you back?
Well, like was already said, it is a twofold situation where we have to go to the city. They have to have the resource of officers to release over to the CSP. And I can talk more to them about that. I just wanted to be made known that we're doing, pretty good with what we have. But just like it was said earlier, when there's a hot spot, then we have to kind of rearrange our resources and send everybody over. Currently, what we're doing we have 2 officers per community that patrol that community and get to know the residents. But if something is going on in a different community, then we have to move those resources. So it would mean sitting down, talking to the Birmingham Police Department about the resources they can give us ASAP.
It just seems like, in light of everything we discussed, it would be, a first priority to see, can we have some people under your direction that are, the guys and girls that you want to have there in those positions, that have this training and that understand kind of the community aspect of what you're trying to do. And then if if we don't have that resource, if for some reason the city restricts us or there's just not the pool is just too thin, then maybe let's look at how can we supplement you. Maybe it is some private help, or maybe it is some other, maybe we're spreading you too thin in some of your obligations. And as Reverend Todd was saying, that we might be able to, maybe we don't need private security, maybe we need private domestic violence officers, or something that's maybe not about just the policing, but maybe more about the community awareness and support. But only if your feedback would obviously be required to understand what we can do to help.
Yes, and I'm open to all of that. I want to be balanced, and I want a balanced approach. So I'm open to other areas as well, because sometimes an officer, a lot of times there's certain addresses that officers keep going to over and over and over, and they'll do the enforcement side. But if there is a professional who can go in, talk to the people, and deal not with the symptom, but what the actual cause of the problem is, then they'll be beneficial for everybody, the neighborhood, the city, criminal justice system, the whole 9 yards.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion that Mr. Foreman, and I know Mr. Trail has so much on her plate, put so much on the plate, that they form a team and look at the best practice to see what can aid us in this discussion on dealing with the security. I was thinking about something before we were saying, when I was at home, I did real well and behaved real well when Mom and Dad were there. But when they left, I cut up. Did you? Okay. What I'm trying to tell you is that when those police officers is not there, and those kids, no family got a sense of when they there and they're not there, that's when your acting out gonna start. So we need to look at in those areas where they already know about what time a police gonna roll through there, officer gonna roll through there. We need to look at maybe redirecting the time in which they go, so people won't just get used to their time schedule, But I still agree that y'all probably look at some more alternative ways to meet some of those areas that we just finished discussing.
Well, I think this doesn't come at a better time because Mr. Foreman and I have a scheduled meeting next week with Deputy Chief. So
Okay.
we're able to address these issues with them and see if we continue to have a lapse in our officers that were committed to us. We'll know how much funding we're able to use to allocate to these other services that we discussed.
Okay.
So we come at no better time.
All right. That worked for me.
All right. Any other questions or comments concerning Mr. Foreman's report?
Thank you.
Very good job, Mr.
Thank
Foreman.
you, Mr. Foreman.
Appreciate you.
All right. All right. So if there's nothing else that needs to come before this board, Ms. Foster, do you have anything else that needs to come before this board?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And we don't have any. All right, no speak. All right, with that being said, if I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor? All opposed? This meeting's adjourned.